Hello and welcome to Move or Improve with Debbie. I'm your host, Debbie Miller, and this is part 4 of my segment called Home Sweet Home. And today I'm going to talk about a topic that is really becoming a trend with the housing market the way it is. Blending communities and families, either in a home, within a home, or a community, that is a trend that has been developing for several years now. And I really think it's only going to continue to grow as the baby boomers age and millennials search for affordable housing. It makes sense. I mean, housing costs are rising, and many baby boomers haven't saved enough to retire. And their millennial children often find that it's better to move back home with mom and dad. And if they have adult children in their 40s, then they may need a place to live if they go through a divorce. So, what do I mean by multi-generational? Well, Pew Research defines it as a household that includes at least 2 adult generations or grandparents and grandchildren under the age of 25. Now, that's the grandchildren are under 25, not the grandparents. Multi-generational living is becoming a fusion of the best trends in senior living innovation, and everybody can benefit, but it may not be for you, so let's talk about that. How did the trend get started? Well, there's several reasons. First of all, before World War II, about 25% of Americans were in multi-generational households. But after the war, there was a general feeling that parents should stay in the family home and the children should spread their wings, so to speak. So create your own nuclear family. Don't remain close to your parents. Leave your hometown, move to the city. A home of your own was considered a measure of success. But more recently, as marriages become fragile or delayed and housing costs rise, there's a trend towards pooling resources and living under one roof so you can care for aging parents, provide childcare, the grandparents to the grandchildren. They can take care of them, get them on the school bus, that sort of thing, and increase the closeness among family members. And if you have family members that you like, this can work. If you don't, then maybe move on to the next segment. But the second thing to think about is the 2006 to 2011 real estate market crash. It lasted a while, and foreclosures and short sales affected many owners' credit, which resulted in families turning to a parent or other family member for housing. Third thing to think about is, in addition, college graduates carried high levels of tuition debt. And then, for many, it's been hard to find a job in their field. And even if they do, the rents and mortgages are high, and it takes a lot to save for down payment when you're trying to pay off student loan debt. Another reason to pool housing resources is to care for an aging parent. I remember many years ago, my grandmother lived with us. When she was unable to care for herself, we cared for her in our home until she passed away. Another thing to think about is millennials are staying home as well. And that demographic, born between 1980 and 2000, make up almost 1/3 of stay-at-home children. Another demographic that welcomes extended family are those of Hispanic and Asian cultures. Living together as a blended family comes naturally in their countries and continues when they move to the U.S. Another demographic is adult children who are, quote unquote, suddenly single. They live with a partner or a spouse and the relationship doesn't last. Now, the breakup can be especially difficult, especially if they have children. It's sometimes easier to start again if they have the support of family members at home, and grandparents can care for the children while the parents work. So what does multi-generational housing look like? I mean, what would we shop around for? Well, there are several choices under this heading. The first is a multi-component unit. It could be a duplex, which is basically two houses side by side sharing one wall, or it can be a stacked up and down configuration, one on top and one on the ground level. And in some areas, there can be a triplex or a fourplex, which means 3 units or 4 units. It really depends. The plus to this is if the parents live in one section, they could rent to the adult child and the other one. If the adult child ever moves out, they can go ahead and rent to someone else and make money off of that. Second option would be a build-to-suit multi-generational home. So nationally, home builders have recognized that the need for multi-generational housing is rising, And as a result, they're designing specific floor plans to reflect and meet this growing need. Lennar is a leader in this type of housing with its trademarked Next Gen, that's Nextgen, all one word. Those floor plan designs were developed by Perlman Architects, but there's other builders who are following suit with variations on the concept because it is getting to be more popular. But basically, this type of home consists of two homes under one roof. And when you look at it from the outside, you cannot tell that there's two homes inside. It's very innovative. Each area has its own entrance. It has its own kitchen, its own laundry, and its own garage. Privacy is a must and is provided in these innovative floor plans. One of the living spaces is generally smaller. It's on the main level, and that's for the grandparent. The larger adjoining space accommodates the parents and the children. Grandparents are just a doorknob away from joining the rest of the family. There is an interior door that joins the grandparent unit with the other unit, the regular size living space. And then the grandparents do have their own entrance outside, and then they have their own garage. So it's nice. You can keep your privacy. It looks like a single family home from the outside. You cannot tell, but the inside does allow for multiple generations to live under one roof with just a doorway separating the spaces. These homes allow families to age in place and allow the children to grow up in them and not have to move. And the benefits of having children grow up with their grandparents is beneficial in many ways. In 1960, only 9% of households were headed by an unmarried parent, but today that number is 34% and growing. And as the grandparent ages, they're still very much a part of the family unit and can receive care without moving into an assisted living facility. Another type of multi-generational housing is existing homes that have been retrofitted to accommodate an extended family. These will come up with a dual master suite. Everyone has their own space. The floor plan can be minimal as a master suite on the main level with its own bath, or you could have a lower level with a bedroom, living area, full bath, laundry, and easy access to the outside with no steps. I have remodeled homes to accommodate 3 generations of family so that everyone benefits from the space and the relationships that are nurtured in that environment. Another multi-generational option is called a casita. Very common in Hawaii, and they are an apartment that's attached to the main home, and they're also found in Rhode Island, California, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, and other warm climates. The last choice would be a master plan community with age-based neighborhoods. That allows for active adults in one area and the families with children who live close by in the same community. There can be apartment complexes, daycare, medical, much more, all within the same community. This type of community is great and allows active and older adults to have a daily connection with the neighborhood as well as the rest of the world. Isolation is not a part of the way of living in the master plan community. And builders are really, and developers are really getting into this more. They see the master plan community as an optimal way to keep people in the community, but as they age, they can move to various locations within the community and really take advantage of all that it offers. So the question is this style of housing here to stay? Well, the Pew Research Center, it compiles statistics on the number of Americans living in a household with at least 2 adult generations, found that 20% of the U.S. population already lives this way. In 1970, only 26 million Americans lived under this household type, but today it's 64 million. Consumer demand, baby boomers living longer and healthier, that contributes to a growing demand for this type of housing. Baby boomers do not want to drift off into the sunset and live in a confined community where everyone else is old. People want to live in vibrant communities, not isolated places where care is expensive and sometimes questionable. And savvy builders, as I said, they're realizing that it makes more sense to sell to the net worth rather than the individual income. It makes better sense to include seniors, millennials, middle-aged folks in the mix and spread the wealth. The goal is to capture smaller portions of larger markets and merge them into one community. After all, they're not making any more land. So the aging in place becomes the new norm, not only for baby boomers, but for all ages. There's no need for interior housing design to hamper a person's ability to move from room to room and live safely and comfortably in their own home. The multi-generational way of living is not a new form, but its growth has been hampered somewhat because of zoning laws. A lot of jurisdictions really restrict their zoning and what can be built or retrofitted. How many people can live in a home and how that home has to be structured needs to really be evaluated, and really I think it needs to be changed, and I think it will over the years. It is I've already seen evidence of that. Jurisdictions will need to modify the zoning laws to accommodate multi-generational living. Communities really need to be forward thinking and be willing and able to accommodate an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old and everyone in between in the same house or on the same piece of property. Many communities today are centered around the car. Visionary communities would include places where people don't necessarily have to rely on a car. They could walk to many places and the amenities are grouped accordingly. So a goal would be to erase the need for residents to live where they are and not have to move into a retirement community necessarily. This multi-generational inclusion allows for mixed use and communities that flourish. The increase in social integration will benefit all residents as well as adding value to the community and the areas surrounding it. So, for example, a preschool can be connected to a playground, or an art room could host multi-generational classes on arts and crafts. Yoga, movie theater, open space for parties or gardening can be included as well. There's a lot of opportunity there. There's an increase in shared relationships, childcare, and more. An area that is already rich in amenities can give seniors more freedom to access these places, even if they don't drive anymore. So you want to ask yourself, is multi-generational family living for you? There are many cases where family members should not try to live together, and you know who you are. They need to like each other, have shared interests, compatible habits, and be willing to create harmony in the household. If your family is overly protective of their possessions or too protective of boundaries, then it's probably not a good fit for you. But the benefits include facilitating childcare. This saves money for the parents if the grandparents help with getting the children out of the house in the morning. The parents don't expect the grandparents to be on call 24/7, though. That's not fair. Another benefit is when an older family member begins to have health issues, the adult children can help and supervise the care. But just watch out, though. Unlike child care, which often gets easier as the children grow up, elder care can get more difficult over time, especially if the older parent has dementia or mobility issues. But the cost savings of keeping the grandparents close by is a big plus. So, how do you keep the peace in a multi-generational household? Does your home work for everyone involved? Are there too many stairs? Does a bathroom need renovating to accommodate an elderly parent? Is the home safe for the children who live there? These are all questions you have to ask yourself, and you may have to have retrofitting done in order to accommodate everyone's needs. Second thing to remember is you need regular family meetings to discuss issues that would be helpful in avoiding problems. You want to discuss child care boundaries, tasks that will be undertaken by the children to help an older family member, meal times, cooking, who does what, when, laundry, that all those little things. Another thing you want to do is make sure that everyone has their own space. So the grandparent wants to watch TV and they don't want to listen to the cartoons. They want to watch something on Netflix or whatever. And they want a large bedroom with an ensuite bath is a plus for the grandparents, and special areas for the children to